right. Hey guys, how's it going? There is going to be a delay on here again. I'm checking it out. Hey y'all. All right. Public view. Well, I guess, okay. I can see what the delay is. That's cool. All right. So how's everybody doing? Wednesday. Let's get going with this sirloin guy. We have, let's see. We've blocked out, he looks like a big thumb head. And if you guys remember, and the last place we left off was, and let me know if there's any audio issues. So let me know if you can hear me okay. Hey, what's up, Tenchi? What's up? How's it going, everybody? So last place we left off is we just blocked out the palm of the hand, and we're gonna do the fingers next, and then we're gonna start to block out the head so it doesn't look so thumbish. That's a word, right? Thumbish. So let's get cooking, shall we? Welcome. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Let's see. I really wish it would show how many people are watching. Okay, I guess 31. We got 31 people. Awesome. Okay. That's great. Sweet, sweet. Okay. So, some of you guys have asked, how do I turn wireframe off of the poly groups? And there's this little word on the polyframe button that says line, and you can click that on and off, and that will show your wireframes. There's also this fill word, and that just changes the colors. So you can turn them both off, and it doesn't even look like you have poly groups, right? Or you can turn fill on or line on, or both, right? So sometimes I just like to turn the line off just to kind of see the colorful shapes, just to see if it feels correct or not. We also need to give this guy some glutes here. Okay. Now, yeah, so I'm going to turn the line back on. Whoops. There we go. And we'll just continue with blocking in the fingers. And with this theme, so when I say theme, what I mean is I'm just showing you guys how you can block arms and legs out with a single piece of geometry rather than multiple. I'm going to do the same thing with the fingers. I'm not going to break them up into 3 pieces or even 2 pieces. I'm just going to do 1 piece per finger. So we're going to try that out. Just like I did 1 piece for the arm, 1 piece for the leg. Just so I just want to show you that, so if you want to simplify your character that way, you can. It's completely up to you. There aren't any rules as far as how many shapes, how many pieces you should use. It's a tool, so the goal is to just get enough shapes in there to define the forms and the shapes and the volumes. That's your goal. If you're wanting to define more shapes and get more detail in there, then add more shapes. But that's kind of an intermediate thing, so don't jump right to adding as many shapes as possible. Stay light, stay simple. That's kind of the key. That's kind of the goal, is just to stay simple. Just put in enough, as many as you need, but not too many, if that makes sense. I can't iterate that enough. So, okay, how's it going, everybody? All right, so I'm gonna grab this appendage insert multi-mesh, and we're gonna slap. It's funny, but I typically do the middle finger first, and not because it's a rude gesture, but because I just like to have a base to work with, and the middle finger seems to be a nice solid start. So we'll do that first. We'll come down here and then just kind of bring it out, and let me see if I want to snap it or not. Probably not. Okay, so it's going to look like a rude gesture for a little while until we get it into place. Let's turn on local symmetry. Scale that up. Okay. Now what I typically like to do with fingers is, I'll try to get the flow coming off of the hand. Now, a lot of people need this finger lesson, I guess, this hand lesson, because a lot of people I know struggle with hands, and I still struggle with hands. So I'll typically start out with the middle finger, or a finger. It doesn't really matter. Hey, how's it going? And then I will kind of work out the shapes from there, okay? Sometimes when I'm doing stylized characters, I will only do a single knuckle in the middle of the finger. So if you think about your hand, right, your finger like this, you have your main knuckle where it comes off the finger right here. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing, right there. Then you have the middle knuckle, and then you have the end little knuckle right here. Typically when you bend your fingers, the end of it doesn't bend until the middle one bends, right? So this one doesn't bend until this one. And so sometimes I'll just leave this knuckle out. So all of the Disney Infinity characters, this knuckle is not included. It just has this one, just the middle one. So it just has 2 parts, right? Not 3. And you can get away with that because of what I just said. This isn't that detailed. You don't need to go that detailed with the finger breakdown. And then you have these main knuckles across here, of course. And what I was talking about last week is your hand is full of arcs, right? There's a whole bunch of arcs in your hand. And we're going to get into that after we get it blocked out. And I'm going to show you all the arcs that I'm talking about. So let's get back to that. So this finger, I have it being tapered, but I actually want to keep it square. With it being tapered, I usually keep the taper with female fingers, and then I'll make the male fingers kind of straight and fat and square. Okay, I should open, let me see. Oh, hey Angie, how's it going? Oh, nice, nice, it's good to see you. Okay. Okay. Here, let me pull this up here, just so you guys don't have to sit and stare at that. Passport, give me a moment. I'm just gonna pull in a character that has some fat fingers, like Hulk. Hulk would be a really good one. If it'll let me search. Come on, it didn't let me search last time. So let's see. Hulk. T-pose. Here we go. All right. And since we're on the student-only stream, I can pull these models up and show them to you. That's the benefit. Whoops. But they're all set to read-only for some reason. So I need to turn read-only off so I can open them. Okay, here we go. Okay, so, oh, it looks like these are super low. Okay, I can show you the topology of these. There we go. So you can kind of see, this is the actual in-game low resolution for this character. So this was actually used in the game, and you can see the extra poly loops right here for the hands and stuff like that. I'm gonna go and say all high, which is going to make everything high resolution. And several people worked on this version of the Hulk, but you can see the kind of the anatomy breakdown that we did on these guys. And for these, we didn't fan those fingers out. We kept them straight. But you can see what I'm talking about with the knuckles, right? We have, let me grab this. We have the first knuckle right here, this big set, and then we have the second set, and there's not a little third one. And the profile of these fingers, they're kind of shaped on this side. They're kind of shaped like this, right? They have 2 kind of concave in between the knuckles. The knuckles just kind of peak, and that's how that works. And then the thumb just has 1, and underneath the fingers, we have the tip that's shaped like this. See that tip? Because when you look at your finger, you have that swoop up like that, right? Is it necessary only 2 knuckles? This is just for stylized characters. This is for very stylized characters. So if you'll see characters like, it depends on what the game is calling for, or the TV show or the film or whatever. It's the style. So what is the style that they're going for? Does it have all the knuckles or not? For realistic characters, absolutely include them all, right? So like Mike Black's character from Fight Club, he's got a realistic hand, so of course you're going to have all the knuckles. But this is a very, very stylized character, and you can see how just minimalized the toes are. They're super minimalistic. They're almost not even there. There's just little notches cut out of the foot, right? On the bottom, there's just little notches. That's all there is. That's all it takes. And then on the bottom of the hand, these are very stylized choices, so edge choices that were made for Disney Infinity specifically on how to stylize a hand. So we have what I was talking about last week, the thumb pad right here, and then the wrist. So you can see that change of direction in your wrist right here. See that kind of that peak right there when it changes? That's kind of how you know where to put an edge if you're going to put an edge. And then when you put your hand like this, so you can see the peak right here and then the wrist line right there. So there's kind of two steps. There's a valley and there's a peak. And that's what is being highlighted right here. So here's the valley of the wrist line and here's the peak before it makes the hand. And then you have that one line. So you can see the crease. It's kind of hard to see in this light, but let's see if I can turn it. Let me see if I can, there we go. So you can see this one line right here across, right there. So there's that, and then there's the thumb pad right here. Okay, so those are the other two things that are being exaggerated in this hand or called out, as it were. There's this line and then the thumb pad like that. So, and then of course we have, the traps and the lats and all that kind of stuff that are being exaggerated on this guy. But I specifically wanted to show you the hand and the shape of the hand and how this is working on an Infinity character. Let me open one more. Let's see. I think Antman. Okay, let's see. Properties, turn on, okay. Oh, Stephen. So what I did, and I wanted to talk to you guys, what I did was inside the community, when I can post something inside the community and say, send an email to everybody who is a member of the community. And if you're a member of the course, you're going to get that email because you're in the community. I invited everyone. So you should have gotten an email that says, Shane Olson just posted a new message in the community. It's not super apparent, but then I said, I'm going live in an hour. That's the community post that I put. I was wondering if you guys would like to see an actual official email where I say, hey, I'm going live, and I send it to everybody, or is just a post to the community with an announcement like that just as good every single week? It was super easy to do. So I would like it if that works, but if not, then I'll take the extra step and send you guys an official one, I guess. Okay, so this is Antman. I made Antman, and here are his hands, and you can see how they're like Hulk's, but they're a little different. So we have, since he has a glove on, you're not going to see the palm lines and things like that. I actually added this line instead. But you can still kind of see these creases, and we actually have an inner knuckle crease on the inside, but the shape is the same. That worked fine? You saw it? Okay, awesome. I don't want to pound you guys with notifications and emails and all this kind of stuff because you're going to want to unsubscribe, and that's not what I want. I just want to say, hey, I'm going live, one of those kind of things. Because personally, I'm not a huge fan of email and just getting bombarded with a ton of stuff. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to send this. Okay, awesome. Thanks, you guys. So also, let's check out Antman for a minute, just a little bit. You can kind of see, here, let me turn off this. Sorry, I'm being a little ADHD sporadic, spinning him around all over the place. I wanted to show you kind of the shape of his body, because we were talking last week about the shape of male figures, right? And how square they are, and where the peaks of the muscles peak and where they don't, where they go in. And I just wanted to point out that I want to show you this shape of the upper body. is like this. I just drew half of the shape. Okay, so you can see that it kind of looks like a barrel. Here, let me draw the whole thing. So if I go right here and back and up here again. So the whole thing is like this big barrel where the lats come out, right? So the lats are coming out right here. See that? And then what happens is from here, it goes straight down the leg. And then the leg goes straight back up over. The leg is really straight all the way up to where it meets the lats. See that shape? See how it doesn't get interrupted except for these things that are part of the armor. These two pieces. Those are interrupting that shape, but it's still there. And your eye will go through those two shapes to continue that straightness and keep it straight. So yeah, Donna, I need to get in there and message them and say, hey, can you get over here? Or not? Yeah, this is it's already 90% less emails than the Google Plus. Okay, you don't mind a few? Okay, so really quickly, you guys, I'm going to show you something. So in the, where'd my mouse go? In the community, there's this little star right here, and you can follow any post that you want. So if you come in here and you go to the feed is going to show you everything. It's going to show you all the topics. So here's everybody's posting right now. So say I wanted to follow Adrian's, so I can click on the star, and now every time somebody posts in here, it's going to send me an email notifying me that somebody's posted in here. So if you are the original maker of this thread, then you're going to get emails, obviously. But there's also, if you hover over here, you can see that there's a bio right here. And I encourage you guys to fill out your bio right here and give yourself an image. And if this send message, what this does is this sends an email to that person, and that person can respond via email. So it's not really a chat per se, it's an email sender. So if you want to talk to him, that's fine too. And then you can unfollow, you can copy the links, pin the post to the top. That's me. I don't think you guys have that ability, but if you ever want to, you can go in here and edit it. And just so you guys know, this community is still in beta mode. So if you guys have any feedback, feel free to post the feedback in this first post that I've pinned to the community right here. And like Tim and Corinne, you guys have been doing a great job. Just tell me if you've noticed anything weird or strange. Like Tim said, you can't zoom in on the images on an Apple phone. So I'm forwarding all of these on to Kajabi to get them to fix these things. And I also have asked them to make 3 columns like Google Plus, because I really love 3 columns. This single column, it has all this wasted space. I know it works well for a mobile device, like it's all small like this on a mobile device, which is great. And this side thing is gone, but yeah, I want to have the columns. I love the columns and the big images and stuff like that. So that's coming. I've asked them, I've talked to them about that stuff. Also, this little thing is edited by me, so I can put whatever the heck I want in here. I can put a link to today's live thread or live stream if I want to, which I might. Maybe I'll put announcements up in here, just different things. I can. Right now, it's just kind of like little rules, like be kind, that kind of stuff. So anyway, more than one image per post. I can ask about that, sure. Maybe Jason, just put that down here in this, so just to remind me, so I don't forget, if you would. Okay, how do you get to the new community? You should have gotten an email, but all you need to do is go to 3D Character Workshop, just like you're going to log into the course, like this, and you'll see your little picture up here. Just click on it and log in. Then you can just go to My Library right here. It'll take you inside the course. You won't see this blue strip, that's for me. It'll look like this. And here's the course and the bonuses. And there's the new student community at the bottom right here. So that's the new one. You just click on view, they call it a course, but view course, and then here's the community. And it takes you into all of the topics. So we have the work in progress and all this kind of stuff. And you can see how many posts are in each one of these. And they're still working on making it so you can see how many you have viewed and how many are new, that kind of stuff. And then if you go to feed, it's going to show them all at once. So this is the feed. And I really wish topics and feed would follow you down as you scrolled. I can't remember. Somebody was commenting on that. That's a really good idea. But yeah, you just go back to topics. And then you can go into like general discussion or whatever. That's where this welcome to the new community is in general discussion. And yeah, you can just go to there. So, oh, I think it was Pedro that was talking about that. So anyway, yeah, please get in there and start posting. Let's fill it up. It's, I think you guys have been enjoying it. So anyway, back to Ant-Man. I wanted to show you just kind of the shapes of things. So the shape of his arm is kind of a cylinder that is tapered like this, okay? And then the lower arm is out like I was showing you when I was doing sirloin. It's kind of shaped like this. So it's got the inside peak and the outside peak. And then from the front, this kind of peaks up like this and goes down, and this comes back to the elbow and goes up. But you can see how it's shaped like this, and the muscle, it overlaps where the elbow is, right? So you can see this portion right here is overlapping the elbow because it has that muscle, right? Kind of goes either way. Yes, this entire model is made in ZBrush. So I mean, it looks hard surface, right? But I made every single one of these parts just with the topology brush and then adding thickness. That's how I did every single piece. I made this guy, he started out as Spider-Man's body. So he was just the Spider-Man without any clothes on. And then I just started making all of the armor pieces. And this is before Live Boolean. This is before ZModeler. ZModeler wasn't out yet. So this whole thing was made with just that kind of stuff. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, he was pretty fun. Okay, so let's get back to this. Okay. So this finger, middle finger, I want to square it up. So what I'm going to do is grab inflate and just inflate this end. Whoops, I got to turn off spotlight projection. And inflate this tip so it's not so tapered. I just want it straight and square. And then I can come in here with move and just kind of start shaping this. And I want the tip of the finger to curve up like this. Okay, and then I do want to keep his fingers square, but not as square as Disney Infinity characters. So what I'm going to do is come in here with pinch, and I'm going to show the geometry so you can watch it happen. But I'm just going to go along this edge and pinch it together, just to kind of create a crease along here. I'm going to turn smooth down so it doesn't go so fast. And then do the same thing on the other side. And then to the tip right here. Now you just got to be careful with pinch because it'll, like I said, it'll pull the geometry into its neighbors. So you just need to be very careful with it. And then you can just come in there and smooth it out. And I don't want to get too crazy with it because as soon as you do the remesh by union and the Z-remesher, that's going to lose those edges. So I'm not getting very detailed right now. I'm just kind of like working out that finger shape, and making the finger square helps that, right? So this is kind of what it looks like with the squared off top. Then what I can do is come in here with pinch. I'm going to hide everything else. And that turns off dynamic so you don't see the dynamic preview. But I'm going to grab pinch again and come in here. And then I'm just going to create the crease in the middle of the finger where it's going to bend. Like this. Whoop. Now what I can do, what I've been doing lately is, and I kind of learned this from Dylan Eckern, the way he poses his hands, and I talked about it before, but is to have the wrist broken, like not straight like this, and I'm not going to have the fingers straight like this. Like I'm not going to have this perfect wedge. I like to have it broken like this, and then the fingers relaxed like this. So if you look at like oh, some Fortnite characters, I guess. If you look at them, all of their hands are to the side and they're bent and they're relaxed like that. Let me just see if I can find one really fast. Maybe not. Okay, here we go. Okay, so like this guy right here, you can see his hands. His hands are not straight, and his wrist is kind of straight, but his fingers are not. They're kind of bent, and it just adds nice flavor to it, and it doesn't feel so dead with his with his hands posed a bit. So they're not just these perfectly straight fingers. And I also have been finding that it's easier to get the hand to look like a hand when it's bent that way. When it's not perfectly straight or even like slightly bent, it's actually posed. And then I'll offset the fingers so it kind of goes ding 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 like this, like, let's see if I can get it in the camera, like that, like 1 2 3, but it'll be 1 2 3 4, kind of offset that way. Oh, Tom. Yeah, so if you look at, and then it says community across the top, that community still goes to the Google Plus group. I need to retarget that to go to the new one. So I still need to do that. Sorry about that. Okay, so how you can do that is you can kind of pre-pose the fingers. So you can grab the mask lasso and just mask it off like this. You can invert it, grab your gizmo, center it in the bend, and then just bend it like this. And you don't be afraid to use the transpose either and move it around. You can move it around like this. Okay, then we have a posed finger, and we can just come in here with move and tune it because it kind of broke it a little bit. Just get these together. And then you can use pinch and come across here and just pinch it right there, just kind of pull it out a little bit. And I do want to have a little tiny bit of the concave swoops in here, like the infinity fingers. Not too much, just barely. And that's it. So there we go. There's our first finger that's square. I'm not going to put any, he's not going to have fingernails or any of that business. Just squarish fingers. And one more thing I want to do is I want to square off the fingertips, okay? Because these are pretty round. So I can just come in here with the move brush and just nudge them square. You'll notice I use the move brush more than any other brush to get what I want. Just square that off. And I'm going to switch to a different material so we can see it better. There we go. Hey, how's it going, guys? No worries. There'll be a replay so you can watch it back. No big deal. Okay, so something like this, right? It's a finger with 2 knuckles. If I were going to put in a 3rd knuckle, it would actually cut this in half and it would go right there. So for example, I would go in here and then I'd bend it again. And that's like the 3rd knuckle. But this guy is stylized enough that we're not going to put that in there. Okay, so now we have this finger and we can duplicate it. Okay, so to duplicate this, if you'll remember, what you can do is hold down Control with the gizmo showing, tap on that finger, as long as it's the only thing in that subtool group, right? So let's show the polygroups. Let's show the polygroups, and this one's pink. Nothing else is being unmasked while we have it. Okay, so now what we can do is the gizmo, it doesn't matter where the gizmo is in space. You can do this technique wherever the gizmo is. So just in order to show you this, I'm going to put the gizmo clear over here, okay? Now if you hold down Control and then you do any of the transform tools, like these corner pieces right here, any of the move, I should say the move, not transform, but move. They're kind of the same thing, but it won't work with scale and it won't work with rotate. It has to be a move function. So one of these arrow tips or one of these corner arrows. I usually like to use the world view arrows on the sides. Hold down Control and move it like this, and it will duplicate it. Okay, then what we can do is just move the gizmo kind of down in the region. I usually like to have the gizmo in the vicinity of what I'm duplicating, so then I can come back in here and just start rotating it into place. I'm going to scale it down and get it. I want to get some space between these two fingers because it kind of goes between your fingers. It kind of goes like this. So here's your finger, okay, and it's going to go like this to the next finger. Okay, so see the space in between those two? It kind of squares off down in there. What you don't want to do is this. You don't want bunny ears like that. You don't want a super tight valley down in between your fingers, because it's going to be a pain in the butt to retopologize, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to just get down in there and manipulate anything. So give it some space, and there is some space. If I hold my fingers apart like this, let me see. You can see, here, it's kind of blurry. You can see it gets squared off. It doesn't get, it's not a tight valley down in there. It's weird. It kind of gets squared off. So make sure your fingers are far enough apart, and don't worry about trying to fit it perfectly to the palm. It's easier to fit the palm to the fingers than the fingers to the palm, okay? So just kind of separate those and start to make that square shape down in between those fingers, okay? Now this is where we start making the arc in the hand, this arc that I'm talking about, okay? So we can look at the hand from this direction, and we're gonna move it down here, and we're gonna rotate that finger inwards like this, because that's part of that arc. You don't wanna have your fingers like, you know, like freight cars on a train lined up perfectly on a track. You don't want them to be that way. Otherwise, your fingers are just gonna look like, you know, like perfectly square. I can't draw. I'm not doing very well, but they'd be like just like chiclets, like perfectly square things. You want to add chaos and make them organic and flowing and look natural. So that's why you kind of arc this finger this way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert that mask by hitting Control and clicking on the background. That's going to invert the mask. Then if I hit Control W, this is going to put this new finger in its own polygroup. Okay, so it will unmask it as well, but now it's in its own polygroup. So then what I can do is hold Control, click on this middle finger again, because that's the one I want to duplicate, because I've already twisted and turned and scaled down the pointer finger. So now to make the ring / pinky finger, because we're only going to do, let's see, he does have 4 fingers. I guess I will add another finger in there. So we're going to do this next one, and we're going to duplicate the middle finger. So we're going to hold Control, move it off like this, move the gizmo up here, kind of spread it out. And these fingers are way too big for this palm, because I was thinking I was going to do 3 fingers. So we'll be doing some adjustments here. Okay, so, and I love being able to rotate based on screen space. So that's why I rotate down here so I can see the finger, then I'll move my gizmo. Doesn't matter where the gizmo is, as long as it's kind of a temporary point in space that I can move anywhere. And then I can just rotate this finger inwards around it, and then I want to scale it down. I feel like I'm talking fast like Michael Pavlovich today. So let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay, and then again, I'm just going to invert this, hit Control W to put it in its own polygroup. Okay, and now what I can do is I have move, I can hit topological and just start adjusting these fingers just away from each other a little bit. Okay, there we go. And if you guys don't know, I've talked about this with the camera before. Sometimes you'll accidentally tap somewhere in space, and then your camera is going to spin like this, all crazy. And I just want to focus on this finger, right? So the camera will spin around either, there's one of 2 places, okay? If I'm using the right-click navigation, this is just something I found out recently. If I'm using right-click navigation, my right-click is set to my forward button on my pen, and I'm hovering, it's going to spin around that point when I hold down right click and hover. So if I go over here, see how the camera's spinning around this point? I don't know if you can see it very well. You can see my red brush and then it's spinning around. If I go over here, on the top right, it's going to rotate around there. And then if I want to just rotate around any of these fingers, it's going to rotate around that point in space. Okay. Another way to do it is if I hold down like shift, or if I just tap on the surface, it's going to reset that camera's pivot to that surface. And then if I tap and rotate and orbit the camera somewhere off of the model, not hovering, if I tap and rotate, it's going to rotate around whichever point I last touched. So keep those two spinny, orbity camera things in mind when you're doing this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy with it. Okay. So let's do the finger again. Oh yeah. I really do want to put a calendar in the sidebar. They're working on that for sure. I know that for sure. So you can kind of see the upcoming events and what's happening. I really want to get that in place. So, okay, so let's check our arc again from this angle. And we can kind of lift this up and move this down. We have our arc. So that's looking pretty good. And then let's add the pinky. And like I said, we're going to have to adjust the palm to the fingers after we're done here. But I'm going to duplicate this ring finger and then make it, and then make it into the pinky. So it's just kind of a rinse repeat, right? So I'm going to hold down Control, tap on the ring finger, hold down Control, and duplicate. Okay. And then this one's going to be pretty small. So I'm going to shrink it down quite a bit till it kind of looks right. And I'm ignoring the palm, okay? I'm just looking, when you're making a hand, the best place to look when you're trying to get the feeling of it, like where should these fingers be? How long should they be? Are the tips, okay? Just look at the fingertips and where they should be in space, and they should be making this nice arc. They shouldn't be, even when your fingers are closed, there's still an arc there. You know, don't make them straight unless, again, the concept is calling for it to be perfectly straight, like Hulk's hands or whatever, right? They're straight on purpose. But typically your hand's going to have an arc to it, even when it's closed. So look at where the tips of these fingers are going to be, and the longest one, your middle finger, see the pointer finger, index finger, and the ring finger are pretty much the same length. And then the middle finger sticks up that far, and then the pinky is way down here, see? So use your own hand as reference. Look at it and say, okay, is that right? Is that looking correct? Is there any chance for an app coming? So I have heard that they're working on an online app, yes. So I just don't know how far they are or how soon that will be available. But I do know that they're working on it. So that would be very cool. Okay, now again, I'm going to invert the mask, hit Control W to put it in its own polygroup. Now it looks like it's in the same green as this one, but it's slightly darker. And you can test it by hitting Control and tapping on it. See how it masks everything except for these pinkies. If they were in the same polygroup, it would unmask them both. So I'll clear that mask. Now what I can do is I want to duplicate one of these for the thumb. And I'm going to duplicate this one. And hold down Control and kind of rotate it up. And again, you want to kind of look at the tip of it and where it rests and how far away it is compared to these fingers down here. You know, how far away is that? So I kind of use that to gauge. And again, I'm kind of ignoring the palm because the palm's all messed up now since I have the fingers in there. And I'm kind of looking at that the thumb tip relationship. Okay, and now from this direction, you want to curve that thumb in a lot, okay? So your resting thumb isn't, I can't even turn it, I can't turn my thumb so it's flat like the rest of my fingers. It's actually on its own trajectory angle, okay? So I need to go like this and get it, it's kind of at a 45 degree from the rest of everything, okay? And then it's also dropped way down. So if you look at my hand, let me see if I can get a good silhouette like this. See how far down it's dropped? you can put it up here, and a lot of them like that. A lot of the riggers like your thumb to be up here. But if you're going to have it natural, like just kind of put your hand natural in a natural kind of a C shape, it's going to be way down here. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is a relaxed thumb that's kind of down here. Okay, so it's on an angle like this, and it's dropped. So let me hide this palm. Okay, go away, palm. And maybe even the upper. And then just kind of look at the fingers. Let's just isolate them, okay? And kind of let your eye fill in the palm. And does that look right to you? Does that look like, you know, it could work as a hand? And right now it feels like the thumb's a little close. So I'm gonna pull it out a little bit. I'm like, okay, now does that feel right? Also, if you're a draftsman and you like to draw characters and stuff like that, a lot of instructors say if you're going to draw a hand, draw the tips in space first, like what they're grabbing, what they're holding. Draw the tips first, and then make the connection, and you figure out where the rest of the fingers are going to be. So, yeah, you don't want to look at the knuckles. You want to look at the tips, because it's going to bridge the rest of the gap. Okay, so let's even do another experiment. Let's cut them off at this point. So you just see the tips. See that? That feels like a hand that's peeking up through some water, right? So where you just see the fingertips just peeking up, and it looks like a believable hand. They look like they're, you know, separated the correct distance, and they're the right size, and they're the right length. You know, just some experiments like that. Just kind of hide things. Also, my art director at Disney, his name is John Diesta. He would come up to our models, and he would actually cover up parts, because it was up to him to decide what was working and what wasn't. So sometimes the face, we would do the heads a lot. Sometimes like something would be off and he couldn't figure it out, so he'd cover up the bottom of his face, or the top of his face, with his finger. Go, okay, that mouth is looking correct, but then he moves his finger down. He's like, oh, okay, these eyes are off and they're different. So that's something you can do with your own model, is cover up portions of it and see what's working. Or like even hide it, like I did, hide everything but the fingers, and that will kind of help you get to the place where you're like, oh, that's not working because of, you know, I can see that the palm is off, or the fingers are off, or something like that. So, okay. And even him standing here like this, he's looking pretty good. I want to start to bend his fingers in now. Okay, so we're gonna start with this first finger. Let's clear this. Whoops. Okay, I want to invert this, hit Control W, and put this thumb in its own polygroup. Thicker even if you don't count the bracers. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep, it'll be... Yeah, this is, when you're working on a character, it's like a constant forward uphill climb, okay? So it's like, yeah, you can go back and see everything and you're like, okay, something's off. But as you add more parts and add more things like the bracers and the gloves and that kind of stuff, you're gonna be like, oh man, I made those hands too small. Let's make them bigger. And that could happen almost all the way at the very, very end, because it takes a while to get everything in there so you can compare and contrast and, you know, make sure you get everything straight. I'm sure this guy is going to change all over the place as we go. So I just wanted you guys to know that it's a journey. You know, you don't. These hands aren't going to be the same hands in the end as they are right now. I'm just kind of walking you through the process that's in my brain as I block out a hand, and then by the end we're going to be tweaking it like mad. So I'm just kind of showing you where I start. So I want to bend this first finger just a bit like this. Okay, and then we'll grab this next one and turn to the side again, bring the gizmo in here, and I want to overlap it just slightly inside the first finger, like this, okay? Then we'll do the same to this ring finger, and just overlap it even a little bit more, just so you can see it coming out from behind the one before that. And then one more time. Let's get this out of here. Okay. Just move the gizmo. And how I'm moving the gizmo is I'm just holding down Alt and moving it around. That's how you move it around without actually affecting the geometry there. Okay, so now I'm wanting to just kind of check it from the other direction, ignoring the palm again. Okay, now it's feeling like all the fingers are too far back, like behind. Let me show you. So if I hold my hand up like this, see how the thumb is on this side of my arm quite a bit. It comes clear out over here. But my pinky is almost, oh, I don't have a ruler with, oh I do. Look at this. Ba-bum. So it's almost straight. There's a couple of differences, but it's almost straight, right? But this side, you can see how much it breaks. And like my first finger and my thumb are both on this side of my arm. Okay, so on my guy, I have it opposite, right? So I have it all behind there. Let's change back to something we can see. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab all the fingers and move them forward. So let's do that by hiding this. And then I'm just going to select all this. Okay. And sometimes I do this opposite, but I'll mask all my fingers off, unhide everything, invert that mask, and now I have my fingers unmasked. I do that routine over and over again. That's just the way I do it. I don't know why. But, okay, I'm going to reset this gizmo, and then I'm just going to move it forward like this in space. So I can try and get that pinky closer to the edge of this arm right here. And then the first finger and the thumb is on the inside of the arm. Okay? Corinne was saying, sorry if you mentioned this already, I stepped away, but is there a preference for making the fingers curved like that rather than straight? It completely depends, again, on the project and the art directors and the people who's going to rig and animate it. So typically you would have your fingers straight, but from my experience, if you want to get your character signed off with the art director, it's better to bend your fingers. And even if you want to put it in a portfolio in a T-pose like this, that's why I moved the pelvis forward last week and had his shoulders kind of back, because it's a little more appealing in that. That's, I gotta show you guys. Let me see if I can find it. Nope. There's this guy Andrea who does let me see, hold on, I'm gonna find it really quick. He does traditional sculpting, and he's at CTN okay, I found it. He's at CTN every single year. Andrea, I can't say his name. I'll just destroy it. But I wanted to show you this because this is a very, very stylized character in a very cool pose with the pelvis out and the shoulders back and that kind of stuff. He did a SpiderMan. This is real clay, and you can see kind of the breakdown, and it's very similar to Infinity, but it's pushed even more. So you can see how he's got these edges going all the way down the front of his arms, all the way down the side, and you can see where the deltoids come in contact with the bicep and the tricep, and how it ties into the pec, right? You can see that, and you can see where the collarbone. That's another thing. The collarbone goes from the center right below the neck, and it goes straight out to the top of the shoulder. So this is we talked about this last week, how the deltoid does not typically curve up above this collarbone. It stays below it, underneath it. So also in a male body, you have these, the shoulders come in like this. It's the same on a female body as well. They're just not as apparent, okay? But it comes in like this, right? They're kind of angled inwards. And then, you know, you got your rib cage and then your abs. And this, even though his legs are kind of coming outwards, it's still very square all the way down. And he has like 4 planes on his arms and his legs. I just thought this was a very, very good example of a super crisp stylized character. And you can see this is what I'm talking about from last week. I was talking about the forearms getting kind of all bunched up here, like Sean Galloway draws his arms, where he'll take all of this musculature and kind of push it up here and make a little ball right here. And you can see that Andrea has done that with this arm. See how it's all kind of bunched up here, and then the arm is just kind of straight all the way down to the wrist. And again with this hand, even though it's in a fist, you can see how it's kind of offset towards the front of the arm, right? It's coming like this. It's in a, let's see if I can hold it. Okay, so see how it's straight right here, and then it bumps up and then it goes out. But on the bottom it's just straight. See that? And when your hand's out, it does the same thing. It's not going to change this angle right here. And if you guys have ever watched Iron Giant, you know, from Brad Bird, Warner Brothers back in the day, Iron Giant, what's his name? I feel like the detective that's trying to say his name. Hog. What's his name? Anyway, the kid has these really, really stylized hands where they exaggerated that. His thumb and his finger, they've actually pulled it clear out here. So it's really offset. And it's just something to look for when you're doing your models. So, and you can also see this from the side, how the forearm muscle goes up past the elbow. The elbow is right here. This muscle does not end here. Okay, it goes up past it. And you know, here it is again where it's straight on the back from the side, and then the forearm peaks right here and goes back in, but it goes past the inside where it bends. It goes past, okay? That's just another thing to note. Okay, and then again, this is man, I love this sculpture. I might try and buy it, but anyway, the lats are just very nice. They're not as arced as I had Ant-Man's. You know, the barrel torso of Ant-Man is more arced, and this is more straight. But again, you can just kind of see the breakdown of the planes. But this is a very, very good model to study for stylized anatomy and really pushed anatomy. So anyway, just wanted to show you guys that because it was awesome. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Hey Pix8, I'm working on it right now. I'm kind of working through it, but yeah, it's taken me a while. I kind of wish the anatomy course was me doing this and talking live like you guys and talking through all this stuff, because this is essentially what I'm going to be doing, or what I am doing, but it's more compartmentalized and more focused, kind of like the rest of the course, where I'm taking you through and pointing this stuff out in a tighter way with scripts and stuff, with images. Hogarth, yeah, thanks. Was that used for? No, that's just a fan art for Spider-Verse, I believe. I don't think it was actual production art. It very well could be though, because I know Andrea does a lot of movie stuff too. Okay, so now I can start adjusting the palm to match what we've done with the fingers. And this thumb might be too far out now. Okay, so now I need to start making it so it flows from the arm down to that pinky finger. And you can start using like the pinch brush too, to put an edge up on this side right here. And across these knuckles right here. That's why it's so great to use a polysphere, because you get the poles. The poles here in this corner, back here, and right here. And that just kind of helps you square it off, because your hand is not necessarily it's not a sphere, right? It's a square. So that helps you figure out that square portion. Now I'm going to pull this thumb. It is feeling a little too far out there, so I'm going to pull it back in a little bit. Okay. And then just keep working. Like I said, I'm going to keep working this palm probably till the very end. Because I want to get that connection kind of rolling up to the arm like that. Then we need to get this thumb pad in there. And I showed you in the course how you can actually add a piece of geometry to put it in there, or you can just kind of pull it out, you know, with the move brush and just kind of have it there. It's not as refined, and it's not going to give you those lines when you combine the pieces together, but you can kind of pull it out, and then you can do a Zremesh on here. Then you can come back in there and define the creases that way. I'm also going to add the rear meat. I don't know what this section right here where I also put in an extra piece in the course. So something like that. That thumb's still feeling weird. Pull it back. That's better. Let's look at it like this. There we go. Yeah, see how it just looks more natural, like he's kind of hanging his hands to his side and just kind of letting his fingers fall and be natural. Okay, but I don't have quite the flow that I want with these fingers up into the hand, so I'm going to work on that next. So I'm going to pull this one down, and then this one up, and this one up. See, the plane that I made is kind of helping me know where these fingers are going to live. This one's buried, so I really need to pull it up. Okay, and then check the arcs. So now we have this. Pinky's lower than the rest of them. And then the finger arcs from this front. I could probably make the middle finger slightly longer. Something like that. Okay. And I'm going to make this thumb a little shorter. Made it too long. And all of this, when I'm like, oh, I should make that a little shorter, that's just my gut feeling. It just doesn't feel right. So I'm like, well, what is gonna, what is it? Is it too long? What's going on? And that's just my gut reaction trying to figure it out from my experience in my brain, just making hands before. I'm just like, okay, something's not right. And same with this. This is getting too concave. I need to give it some volume right here where the thumb's going, because there's bones underneath there. It only gets concave down right in this webbed area right here. Pinky meat. And I want to show it. I want to point out that it's. I don't want to do that. I'm not a huge knowledge base as far as anatomy is concerned, and I want you to feel that way too. You don't need to be a doctor in anatomy to know what looks good and what looks right and where things go. You do need to study reference and get the landmarks correct. But you don't need to know every single name of every single thing. That'll just drive you mad. It would drive me mad anyway. So, yep, Kingsland's ears are burning. So, Ryan Kingsland, he loves anatomy. He loves it. And he took the time to go in and learn all that stuff. And it's great. I mean, it shows, but I don't feel the same way. I don't feel the same way. I don't feel that it's necessary to have memorized everything. Unless you're trying to, like I'm trying to talk about it with you guys. That's when it kind of hinders a little bit. But then if I was rattling off all these anatomy names, you wouldn't know what I was talking about anyway. So. Donna. Pinky meat. All right. Okay, so I'm feeling like those hands are pretty good. I'm gonna save it. Save it. Okay. Where are we? Student only live streams, ETLs, block out 3. Okay. There we go. And I always save in increments too. This is version 3 of this blockout, so I've saved 3 ZTLs now, because it's kind of, I'm going down the line and making it happen. And I still, because that way I feel like I can delete some of these subtools that I don't need. Like these 2 subtools right here, I know I'm kind of over those. If I want to go back to them, I can, because they're in my old Z tools. But right now I can get rid of them. So I'm going to click on this one and delete it, and then delete this one. Okay, now we're just back to this guy, and let's work on the head. Let's get that going. So it's been an hour. So it took us an hour to do those hands. Not too bad. Now I just have to say again, and that's with me talking. So it would probably have taken me 30 to 45 minutes, something like that, to block out hands like that. Now, like I said, that being said, don't feel like you need to get hands done that fast. Take your time, do a good job. Hands are very important. Hands are almost like a character all unto themselves. And I notice a lot of students will just kind of disregard them. And some of the rookie mistakes when people are making hands is they'll make the palm, like I said last week, they'll make it like fat, like a big balloon in the middle, make it thin and skinny, like a wedge. Okay, it goes thickest at the wrist and then it wedges down where it's thinner at the knuckles, and then it just keeps going until it's thinnest at the fingers. Then I see a lot of people going too small and thin with their fingers, like they're just almost hardly barely there. Make sure they have some volume and some thickness to them. And make sure, even if they're female fingers or little tiny character fingers, they still need to have a presence, because you're going to be doing, or the animator is going to be doing gestures with those fingers and animating with them, and they have to be seen. If they're really tiny, small, and they're like, I just thought of a joke and I'm not going to say it. Anyway, if they're really small, then they're not going to be seen. They're going to kind of go out of sight, right? But fingers and hands are very, very important. So spend a lot of time on them and get them looking good, okay? And then they'll go a long ways. Another thing is I want to bend the pinky a little bit more back here, like that. Just kind of pull these knuckles out, just so they bend a little more. So there's a bigger change of direction on those things. Oh, thanks, Tom. Yep. There's a really good one by, maybe you said it, Elliot Goldfinger. There's Scott Eaton is a really good one. And then my favorite by far is Proko. So Stan Prokopenko of Proko.com. I love his stuff because he makes it not boring. He teaches figure drawing, but he teaches anatomy that goes into the figure drawing, so you become a better figure drawing artist and a better artist after that. So it's just his breakdowns and his humor in the videos that he does, they're just so great. I've been talking to him as far as doing some collaboration eventually, because he's a really, really funny, nice guy. Lives down in San Diego here in the U.S. Yeah, he's crazy good. Okay, so let's get this head so it doesn't look like a giant thumb. Okay, it's like thumb head. All right. So what we're gonna do with this is I want to put in the breakdown. So I kind of picture this as the neck, and I want to put the head breakdown that I always talk about, where you have the cranium and then you have the jaw piece hanging off of that. So this is kind of both the cranium and the neck in one right now, but I do want to add a cranium in here so we can actually get an eye line. So I want to do that right now, but I want to shrink this up just a little bit because his head peaks even more than this. Yeah. Then I'm streaming at this time because I put out a poll to every student out there and asked them when is the best time that most of the students could watch me live. And this is the result is it's 1 a.m. or it's 1 p.m. my time in Mountain Time in the U.S. So it's 7 p.m. or 8-ish in the UK. So that's just the best time I could catch the most people. So that's why I chose this time. I'm sorry if it doesn't quite work for you. Yeah, Proco. Okay. So let's get the cranium in there. I'm just going to grab a sphere. But I'm glad you can make it. Oh, I'm going to show this. There you go. Okay. Yep, Proco.com. Stan Prokopenko, he really likes the way I teach how to block out characters because he teaches a very similar method. And he wanted me to talk to his students about that, which is exciting. Okay, so this cranium is crazy small. And with craniums, this is kind of hard to see, but you usually push in the sides. Your skull is flat on the sides. And it kind of peaks in the back. I'm going to push this down. Okay, we'll get that out of the way so we can get the jaw in there. Okay, so let's get the jaw in there. This jaw is crazy. It's going to be interesting to use this block out method with this guy because he's so just pushed. He's got such a small head and a big, big, big jaw. So we're going to try and see if we can block that out. Porco Rosso. Okay, let's get that. Something, I don't know. We're going to have to mush this around like crazy. And his chin sticks clear out here. Then your jawline, that's another thing, is your jaw. I've talked about this before, and you can't see it on my face because I'm kind of chubby, but your jawline goes up and it ends right in front of your ear, or almost right into your ear, right? It doesn't go all the way back to the behind your ear into your neck. That's not where your jaw ends, right here. So I've seen a few students, not very many, will actually make the jaw like go behind the ear, and that's not where it lives. So you can block out a shape to make it kind of flow into the back of the neck. If you're doing a character like me that has a little fluff in here, you can, but just know where that jawline is and be thinking about it when you're blocking your character in. Okay, and I like to hide the neck or whatever's blocking it, even the cranium, and just try and pull this out. If it's a male character with a very strong jawline, and just kind of pull it out, pull out the shape to kind of start to form that shape. Because if it's in the neck, you can't really make it take that shape. And then the ear, the front of the ear, splits the head in half. So if you measure from the back of your head to the front of your forehead, your ear, the front of your ear is, if you drew a line, it's right down the center. Okay, so that's kind of a guide. Even on stylized characters, that's kind of a guide that you can start with and then tweak from there. I imagine this guy being voiced by Warburton. Is his name Paul Warburton? Is it Paul? I'm trying to remember. Something Warburton. He voiced a character for the Tak and the Power of Juju game. Okay, so There's that. He voiced Kronk on Emperor's New Groove, that guy. Okay, so let's kind of pull this chin out. This is the highlight. Let's get this zoomed in here. It's going to be a little low res, but so the highlight that's cascading down on this chin kind of gives you an indication of how far that thing sticks out, which is quite far. And then we'll define it more after we do a Zremesher on it. And then his brows are his eyes are quite deep from his brows in too. So we kind of have to watch that. And we can even use our pinch brush and just kind of come along here, start to define that brow. Patrick, thank you. Not Paul, it was a P. Patrick. Okay. Might be a little high, so I'm going to pull these down. Then his forehead isn't that slanted, so I'm going to pull that out. And let's get his nose in there. His nose blocked in. His nose, it's kind of deceiving the way it's drawn, but it's quite lengthy. And I know just because I've modeled this guy before, like I said, I modeled him in 3D Studio Max. Gosh, what is it, 2009, 2006, 2005, something like that. Maybe even earlier than that. It's been a long time. But I just remember trying to get it to look like this and having to go quite long with it. And it's a bit up. Oh yeah, Brad Garrett, yep. And I'm just going to kind of start pulling this out to get that shape. I'm not going to add extra pieces to it. I'm just going to try and get this to work, just as it is. Kind of wide and square. It's a really fun nose. Okay, and then I have to kind of imagine where the mouth is going to be and make sure that when I Z-remesh this, I can get the good mouth cavity. And his mouth is pulled up into a smile. So we're going to have to make his mouth about right, well, it's hard to see. It's going to be like right here, something like that. Okay. I think I'm happy with that so far. I need to get this flow to work better. See how it's like we have this huge bump happening right here. Bonk. So let's fix that. I want that bump from the front because that defines where the eyes go, but not so much from the side. I really want to keep that taper all the way up to the top. Same with the back of his head. Now the back of his head can be, because it can have that little dip right here, but it's better to be like that, right? You don't necessarily want it to have that sharp of a bend, unless it's a bald guy like me and he's got a meat head and he's got these like folds of skin that fold when he's, yeah, that's the only time you really want to have, you know, that dip. Okay, and he's going to change when he gets that chainmail hood on. That's going to change the look of him a bit. $3ds Max and our Turbo Smooth, yep. Yep, that's it. I actually use Turbo Smooth, which is essentially subdivisions inside of ZBrush. The Paint Relax modifier. Yep. Okay. Sorry, I just saw something that I want to change. I just want to bulk out that shoulder a bit. All right. And what's interesting too about that SpiderMan that Andrea did, from the side, his arms were so far back that you could see the character's silhouette because his arms were, you know, behind him. So that was kind of interesting. It's a really great piece to study. Okay, I feel like this is going okay. Okay. And a good thing to do too is make him really small, like a thumbnail. And you're like, okay, does he still look good at that size? That's very, very telling. If you have your proportions off or something like that, let's get this small. It's kind of hard to see with them being like. Now you have to imagine the armor on him, because that's going to add some girth to his torso. But it looks like, it kind of looks like that could be that guy, you know. I think his pelvis might be a little too thick, but his feet are feeling okay, and his head and his height and his arms are feeling about the right thickness after I get the armor on there, you know, and his head feels the right height. Yeah, so really small. Okay, so now what we can do is we can merge everything together and then Zremesh it and see where that puts us, okay? But right now, there's a part about this hand that's bothering me, and that is the plane change from the plane of the top of the hand to the knuckles. Because right now, what I'm looking at as I zoomed it in closer is we have this going on right here. See that? It's like this really smooth arc. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to have a flat plane and then change the knuckles. So I'm going to turn topological off so I can affect the fingers and the palm at the same time. Then I'm going to pull these out to make more of a plane change happen in the top of that hand. Okay, so now it goes like this, even though it lines up more with the arm itself. There. See that? Now it's more like this shape rather than this shape, right? So that's, and I can also bend the hands down a little bit. Let's do that. What I mean is I can do something like this. Let me get like that. And you can turn them a little to the inside too. You don't want them to be like this or like this. You want them to be either turned in slightly or straight. Because think about, put your arms down to your side and just hang them there. Look at where the front of your palm, or look at where the top of your hands are. They're not facing directly out to the sides. They're facing a little bit to the front because that's natural and they're just kind of hanging there. So that's when you say, people say A pose and they say T pose. What they really mean is a neutral pose. That's neutral. That's like the middle of all the extensions of rotation. So like your hand is, you can go from here to here, right? So neutral is here. That's in the middle of the furthest you can move it is your neutral. So if you think about where everything is, the only time that doesn't really take into effect is the legs. If your legs were in the middle of their full, what they can do, all your characters would have your legs would be spread out and they'd look weird. So the rule to that, or the asterisk to that rule, the neutral pose rule, the asterisk is what pose or position is your character going to be in most of the time during the game or the TV show or the film? Where's he gonna be? So that's why people are moving away from T poses where their arms are straight out, which is in the center of, the farthest you can put them down and the highest you can raise them is in the middle, right? So now they call them A poses where they're kind of down at a 45 degree. And the reason they're down at a 45 instead of at a T pose typically is because that's closer to where the character is going to be most of the time. Because in a T pose, you start to get stretching and weird things happening in the shoulder. So that's why it's best to have palms down and in an A pose. So there you go. And with the palms facing kind of slightly backwards. Here, I can show that link if you want. There you go. YouTube doesn't like links very much, so I have to moderate and say if you post them or not. Okay. So I'm liking that. There we go. From the side, let me adjust that just a little bit. Okay. And then I just want to push in and just make this change of direction happen a little better too. There we go. Okay, and we're going to add some more just little edge work details as we go. But I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, I'm going to save it one more time. Chris, the 3D horse again? I know you meant to say course. Haven't signed in lately, but was wondering if you have updated your process for blocking out, including a new way of Zremeshing. No, there's something coming that I can't talk about that is going to affect the workflow somewhat. And I don't want to bring it up, but that's something that's happening. It's very, very cool. But I can't really talk about it too much. So as soon as that happens, then I'm going to get it out there. So yeah, I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry it's taking me so dang long. That's why I've been doing these things like the student only live stream, because it kind of updates you on the course and the workflow and everything without actually like putting, actual lessons in the course that are updated that way. So yeah, just bear with me. So I'm giving you the information now. I'm going to show you, and I've shown people in the Pixelogic live streams, but I haven't actually made a scripted, storyboarded lesson for it quite yet. So almost there. Okay, so I'm going to show you that right now. So this is the block out. I'm just showing you how you can block a character out using less shapes. That's pretty much, the block out remains the same as I've taught in the course, exactly the same. The only difference is I'm going a little deeper with the anatomy, and I am talking about how you can simplify using less. Don't go more, go less if you can. Only use the amount of shapes that you need to define the volumes and everything like that. So one second. My foot mat keeps moving. Okay, I'm standing on a pad about this thick, so I can actually stand here for 2 hours. Okay, so that being said, what I want to do is duplicate this. So now I have two. I hide the original, and now we have this guy. And before, what I've taught in the course is at this point you would dynamesh everything together. Okay, and I'm going to show you the differences right now. I'll duplicate one more. Okay, so I'm going to dynamesh one, and I'm going to use the new method, which is remesh by union. And I love remesh by union, by the way. Okay, so if I were to dynamesh this, what I would typically do is hit apply on this dynamic subdivision. So it actually added the subdivision levels in. So he now has 3 subdivision levels. So he's actually as smooth as you see him for real. Okay, then I'm going to just dynamesh him. And I can use Remesh by Dynamesh, which is kind of fun. That's a new thing in here. I'm going to hold down Alt and reset the gizmo to the world center and the world axis by holding down Alt and clicking on the house and the circular arrow. Then I can go into this gear and click Remesh by Dynamesh. Okay, oh, it looks like I have to freeze my subdivision levels. So let's delete the lower. When it says freeze, never freeze. Don't use freeze because freeze is prone to crashes in ZBrush. ZBrush hates freezing. Some people like to use it, but essentially what it does is it's going to reproject your detail back onto your character after you're done with the freeze thing. It's better to delete the lower subdivision levels than it is to use freeze, okay? So when it says freeze, don't use freeze. Stay away. That's like, freezing is like using layers. Just use them in very, very small quantities, okay? Okay, so this is our new mesh. Now, they're not connected. They're not combined. We can do, hold down or click on this gear and hit Remesh by Dynamesh, okay? Now we have this, and we have these cones, okay? They're hard to see. Let me see if you can see. Okay, so you reproject. So that means if you want to keep the details and reproject them back onto your Dynamesh. And then this one is smoothness. So it's essentially the exact same two things that you get when you're Dynameshing, regularly, okay? Now this white cone is your target density, which is really cool because in the old way, using Dynamesh over here in the tool palette, you have the resolution right here that you're completely guessing at. You have no idea what the results are going to be, right? But with this cone, you can kind of get an idea after you pull it out to, let's say, we'll try about, okay, so see how this is, I pulled it out to about 6,000. That's way too low for Dynamesh, okay? You can see that it just looks horrible. So what this Remesh by Dynamesh, which is what's cool about it, is it remembers your original mesh. So it's still in a state of I'm not done yet, okay? So you can grab this thing, pull it out to, let's try about 20,000. That's a little better. Keep going. Let's say 70,000. That's better. Okay, maybe 88,000. Okay, so now I like that. That looks pretty good. So now you just click on this gear again and hit accept. And now we have a dynameshed mesh, okay? And now what we can do is we can Zremesh this to get to the next stage, okay? And that is exactly what I teach in the course. Not using Remesh by Dynamesh, but I do teach you how to Dynamesh your character. But the problem with Dynamesh is right here. And you guys have probably run into this problem. You don't have enough in here to make those fingers, in between the fingers, look decent. It just kind of breaks it, right? And then you have to go in there and mess with it and fix it. Okay, also the surface where the joints connect, it starts to look like this, right? You start to get this weird stuff that you have to come in there and smooth after you're done, right? So you have to come in here and do all this work of kind of fixing what Dynamesh broke, okay, and making it all smooth, which is fine. That's what I teach in the course right now. But here, one second, okay. But what you can do now is there's this Remesh by union. So let's go back. Yeah, then if you're taking off, thanks for hanging out. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this mesh before the Dynamesh. So this is just the pieces again. And what we're gonna do is Remesh by union. Okay, so let's reset this gizmo again. Go to the gear and hit Remesh by union right here. And what that does is that's gonna stitch everything together, okay? See all these stitches? Now, one thing I should have done before I did Remesh by union is Z-remeshed my block out, because what that will do is that will put everything in a very similar density. Right now you can see how the fingers have more density than the hand, right? So where it's stitching the hand, it's having some troubles because there isn't enough density in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out. Okay, Control Z. Let's hide this for a minute. And I want to Z-remesh this. So let's do that. And I can do, there's also a remesh, but let's see, what is it called? yeah, remesh by Zremesher. So there's these three, well, I guess there's four. There's remesh by decimation, but remesh by Zremesher right here. And you can also use that in here as well. Now, this is a little different where these cones, these are symmetry cones. So I want symmetry across X. So I'm going to pull out this red cone. And if you hover over it, it's hard to see the orange letters down by his crotch. It says X symmetry equals 0 or equals 1 now because I pulled it out. And I don't want symmetry on Y or Z, so I'll leave those alone. Then, just like Zremesh by dynamesh, this white cone will tell you how many polys that you want to try and hit with it, okay? So I'm going to pull this out to about, you can see the number down by his crotch is about, 6,000. We'll try that and let go, okay? Now you can see that the density, the overall density is closer to matching, okay? There's a lot more density in the palm, so when you Zremesh by union, that's going to stitch a lot nicer, okay? So this is about the density. This is more about the look of your mesh and less about the number, okay? So a lot of students get hung up on the number. How much should I Zremesh it to? It's not about the number, it's about the look, the density. You can go about this dense. This is about the size of the square compared to the rest of the character that I usually take my Zremesher, or if I'm doing my final surface, I'll take it just a little bit higher, but not crazy. I'm not taking it to dynamesh levels of density. I'm just taking it to Zremesh levels of density, okay? Lucky, okay, that's a fantastic question. So, and Stephen, yes. Oh, so Stephen's asking, would you not want to raise his arms a tad to preserve the geometry in his armpit? Yes, you would, and I will. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And then the second one, Lucky said, is it a bad idea to remesh by union if the model has pieces that is remeant to be hard surface because it would smooth them? Yes, you do not want to have extra pieces. You notice that I haven't built anything for this guy yet. But say if this guy was part cyborg or something like that, right? So he had like a metal torso or something like that, or a metal arm. The metal arm, anything that is not made of the same material. So if I had put eyes in here, for example, anything that's not made of the same material, in this case skin, it would not be in the same subtool and you would not be merging it together, okay? So I know I saw a student that was doing the creature, the creature box student challenge that had actually combined the eye of the character with the rest of the body. It's hard to recover from something like that when you accidentally merge in something with a different material into the same subtool. So that's kind of your rule of thumb when it comes to what to combine and what not to, is it made of the same material? Just ask yourself that. Is it made of the same material? An eyeball is not made of skin. It's made of like eyeball juice, right? No, it's made of just eyeball material. So it has its own thing. It's shiny. It's its own thing. Same with fingernails. Same with nails on your toenails. I was thinking of like dragon talons or something like that. Anything like that is made of a separate material, you want to break it off into its own subtool, and that goes for everything. So if you have like a belt, for example, and your belt is leather, and you have a belt buckle that is made of metal, I would have the belt buckle in a separate subtool than the leather belt. And the reason why is because when you get down the line and you're doing your reprojection and your map baking inside of Marmoset, it's much easier to assign the materials to each group of items that have that material applied to them. So you could even combine everything that's made of leather into one subtool and then just apply the leather material to that one thing. It would be much more difficult to try and apply a metal material and a leather material to the same belt that's including everything. It's kind of impossible at that point. Now, if you're using Substance Painter, that's a little different story, but you still want to have your high resolution meshes be separated based on material. That's the easiest way to, if any of you have ever used Substance Painter, one of the things that you will create as you're making your high resolution character is you'll create something called a material ID map. And what that is I don't think have I shown you guys what that looks like before? A material ID map is just a very, very colorful map. I'll just say substance on the end of that just to make sure we get one that we want. There we go. So this is a material ID map, okay? And this is essentially telling Substance that everything that's dark blue is a certain material. Everything that's yellow is a different material. Everything that's green is a different material, and so on. So a way to easily tell Substance, or Marmoset for that matter, what material belongs to what is to break it out into different subtools inside of ZBrush and have them be separate groups of objects. So like I said, everything that's yellow right here that you see on this map, it could be, all of that could be put into the same subtool and be just fine. And all of the blue could be put into another subtool. Or you could have multiple subtools with different metals in them and just have those in separate subtools. It's all about scene organization when you're getting to that point. Okay, so eyeball juice. Clown pass. Yeah, clown pass is a different thing. Clown pass is another way to break up materials as well, but they call it a clown pass because it's so colorful. And but that's kind of a keyshot term. I don't think I've heard of a clown pass other than in keyshot. So okay, let's get back to it. But thank you very much for that question, Lucky. I don't think I talked about that enough in the actual course. So that's why I really wanted to do this live stream and have you guys ask me questions, because it's like, oh yeah, I didn't really cover that in depth in the course. So yeah, thank you for asking that. Okay, so this is about the density that I want. And just like with Remesh by Dynamesh, I want to get out of this. So I click on this gear, hit accept, and now it's done. And now I will have a better result when I do Remesh by Union. Okay, so let's go back in the gear and hit Remesh by Union again. And now you can see on this hand, the stitches are much cleaner and much nicer and better. Okay, so now we can hit accept. Okay, there we go. And there's our result, and it's looking a lot nicer. Okay, it's okay. It's hard to do stuff in practice. Yep, thanks for explaining. You know, and when I put the course together, I'm like trying to remember all of the stuff that I need to cover. And so this is good for me to remind me, like, oh, I should probably cover that. You know what I mean? So, or cover it more in depth. I believe I said it somewhere in there that it's best to separate out things by material, subtools by material. So, but you know, it can never be said enough. Okay, it looks like I have some issues. Okay, and this is because the neck geometry was too close to the cranium and too close to the nose right here. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit because you want to inspect this, because we're going to do a Z-remesher. It probably won't affect the Z-remesher, but just in case, it looks like it's making some weird stuff that the Z-remesher might go, I might need to pay attention to that. And you're like, no, it's just some flub. So we're going to back out of that. Okay, yep, you can see it right there. Okay, and there we go. Looks like my pinch actually affected the neck underneath. So I'm going to smooth this out. Yep, symmetry. Okay, let's smooth this out. Turn on symmetry. There we go. Smooth this out. Smooth this out. There we go. Hey, what's up, Emma? All right. And you know what? I forgot ears, but excuse me. This guy is wearing a hood, and you can't really see his ears. And they're not really causing lumps in his hood. So I'm trying to decide if I actually want, I guess there's a little bit of a lump right there. So I think I do, before I go any further, I do want to put just a little ear in here. And then before I go any further, I always forget, and I don't know why, but I always forget to add eyelids in there, because I always, I tend to just build them up by hand, and it's better to actually block them in than it is to build them up by hand. But for some reason, my mind just says, oh, just keep going, you know. Another thing is, and I did talk about this in the course, is it's a good idea to separate the head from the rest of the body. And rather than combining them together now and then separating them later, it's better to separate them now. So I want to do that. I'm just thinking through this. I'm like, okay, I should probably put the eyes in there. I should probably put the eyelids in there and then separate the head out from the body. So I'm going to do that too. Yep. And well, eye meat comes later. Okay. So let's do that. We're going to do that right now. Okay. I'm going to separate this head into its own subtool. Okay. This is driving me crazy. There we go. Now split hidden. So now the head is by itself. You can't see it. There we go. And we're going to work on this head. We're going to get rid of this dynamesh mesh. You've seen the pain that it makes, and we know this is why I no longer use dynamesh in my workflow. So write that down. And a lot of people are like, don't use dynamesh anymore, and I say no because that is why. You guys are cracking me up. And we have this nice mustard yellow for some reason. I don't know where we got that color from. Let's go back to let's go lighter, but not white. Okay, here we go. So a couple things we're going to do with this head, and also I can build the mouth cavity in here while I have them all separated out if I want to. There's nothing wrong with that. If you guys have been watching my live stream, typically I will merge them all together, then I will make the mouth cavity and then Zremesh it again. So it's like 2 times. But what I can do is I can actually Zremesh just this piece and see if it works out. So, okay. Yep, dynamesh warbles, stay away. Okay, so let's get the eyes in there. We're going to make them kind of big, something like this, and then stick them in the head. Like this. It's always really good to get your eyes in there soon, because you can see that it's starting to, it doesn't even look anything like this. So before I unmask these eyes, what I want to do is split to unmask points, which puts the eyes in its own subtool because they're what? Made of a different material. That's right. Okay, so now we have the head, and we can start exposing those eyes by moving the geometry around them to get them to be a better shape. But see how where the cranium and the jaw come together, it's naturally making that eye shape. I'm not really having to do much to get that nice almond shape. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here. Whoa, get over here. Just to kind of look at the head a little closer. And the bottoms of the eyes, it's this resolution's kind of low. I got to see if I can get a better resolution from Todd. Or I have it somewhere. I need to find it. Anyway, his brows are very, very heavy. Heavy brows. And low. So I'm just kind of, even over his nose, like that, the difference between his nose and this brow. Super heavy. How did I decide? Okay, the hero, that's a great question. The rule of thumb is, the question was, how do you decide on eyeball size since most of the volume is buried in the head? Now, I always do this. What I do is I make the biggest eyes I can before they start to come out of the sides of the head. And the reason why is because, and I try not to cross the center, but most likely it's going to happen. I try not to, but it's pretty much going to happen. The reason why is because I want to avoid bulging eyes. Okay, we talked about this in the last Wait, I talked about it this Monday in my live stream, but the smaller the eye, the more it's going to bulge, because I'll show you. If I get a sphere, I'll just put it on here. So if you have a big sphere versus a little sphere, the radius of it is just tighter. See how tight? Oh gosh, how tight this radius is, right there. It's just really tight compared to this radius. See that? If I put that radius up against this one, this radius is very large. So if I put that against the little one, you can see how, you know, just the curvature of it is much flatter. So you're not going to get bulging eyes. So if you have very small eyes and very small sockets, especially if you make the eyes the same size as your eye openings, they're going to stick out of there like crazy. I know I've seen a lot of students that are doing the mini bus. They'll make their eyes too small and they'll bulge. So you want to make them as big as you can, stick them in there without them going out the sides, and then without them crossing the center too much. That's kind of the guideline I just go for. So hopefully that helps you out. Okay. There we go. Hey, what's up, Can? Yeah, we got about 15 more minutes. Okay, and then again, we have about one eye's length of difference between the two eyes. So I try and find the eye size somewhat. And then, Angie, I always try and leave it round as much as I possibly can, unless it's like a crazy character, like an anime character with these really flat eyes. That's the only time I'll ever take them away from being round. And the reason why is because it's much easier to rig a sphere than it is to rig an eye that's been flattened if you're going to animate it in any sort. So you can get away with flattening the eye if you're just going to use it in a render, or if you're going to 3D print the thing for a toy, you can absolutely go flat with your eyes. But typically I'll try and keep them as round as possible. And it also helps with like materials, like textures and things, you know. Like if you want the highlight to go around the eye, if you have a flat eye and you're trying to, and the guy's turning his head or something, that highlight is going to travel across the front of the eye in a weird way because your eye is flat, if that makes sense. All right, Angry. Oh my goodness. See, it's these things that I completely miss because I don't know what you don't know until you ask. You know what I'm saying? So this is good. Okay, so see, I can adjust the size of the eye just by adjusting the face, not the eye itself. See that? Do you add the iris, cornea, whatever bulge often, or generally too much detail like fingernails? No, I do, and I do. I will build out the eye one of two ways, and we'll get into building out this guy's eyes. I'll show you both ways to do it. There's actually three ways. There's just painting the iris on the surface of the eye. That's how we did it with Disney Infinity. Another way, actually, that I just thought of is you actually cut the iris in, which is like if you're using live Boolean, you can subtract a sphere out where the iris is, which will make a cup. And then you subtract a cylinder out of that to make the pupil. So, and then you can add another cylinder, actually add it in to make a highlight. Let me show you. I can just show you really quick. I think I told you guys that I did some heads for Kajabi. So Kajabi is they're the people who they host my course, and there's two owners. There's Kenny. This is Kenny. There's two owners, and the lead programmer, his name is Jeremy. He's the guy who's been helping program all the community and everything. And I thought it would be really good to get. Well, Jeremy came to me and asked me if I could do a couple of busts for the Christmas party that was coming up. So I wanted to do, and I said, yeah, of course I'll do that. So this is Kenny, and you can see how his eyes are made. And they're made exactly how I was trying to explain, which is a sphere that's been cut out and then a cylinder that's been cut out for the pupils. And that's really good for 3D printed or hand sculpted faces that aren't going to have, it's not going to have color on it. It's just going to be gray, because at a distance in the light, it's going to make it look like eyes. You know, it's going to have the depth and the stuff like that. So anyway, that's one way of doing it. So this is the Kajabi symbol right down here on the base. Anyway, that was a lot of fun to do, and I did the other guy too. His name was J Cron. So I can, if you guys want to see him, he looks like this. So they're both done very similarly, and I stylized the hair. The hair was kind of the last thing. I'm not the happiest with the hair because it kind of looks like rocks or something, but that still works. But they were completely happy with these. I had Aaron Bernhardt from Blizzard. He's the guy who is over the Blizzard Overwatch merchandise that puts out those big Overwatch models. He actually printed these for me because Kajabi is in Irvine, California, and Blizzard is in Irvine, California. So they're right next to each other. So I had him print them each on Form 2 and then deliver them. Like, yeah, he did a fantastic job. They turned out great. So anyway, there you go. Sidetrack. Okay. Oh, you keep forgetting to put the eyelids too? Yep. Yeah, it's a matter of like trying to remember, and it can be a big pain in the butt, but oh well. Okay. So Hiro, I hope that answered your question. Okay, so let's get the eyelids in there before time is out. And what I typically do with eyelids is I will just duplicate the eyes and then solo it, and then just use the clip curve brush, and I'll just clip it in half like this. And sometimes it helps to show your wireframe. Then you know exactly where the middle of it is, and then you can just clip it off right there. So, oh, Hiro, I was going to tell you, I showed you the sculpted eye like that. You can also build out a game eye like that, but then do another piece of geometry that mimics the cornea, which is a bulge on top of the eye that actually will make the highlight of the eye work more, I guess, closer to reality. It looks more realistic. The highlight will travel across that. And I've been doing a hybrid of both between a painted eye and the bulge eye. And what I'll do is I'll take, and that's probably what I'm going to do with this guy, is I just create a, what's it called, a hemisphere? Is that a partial sphere? It's just like a circle that has a dome to it. And I'll just stick that right on the surface of the eye. But it has a tighter curve when it comes to, it doesn't sit right on the surface of the eyeball. It's actually bulging somewhat. Then I can apply a material to just that part of the iris. And then the highlight will travel around just inside the iris and not on the whole eyeball itself. I will put a shiny material on the eyeball itself, but maybe not as shiny as the iris itself, because I don't want two highlights traveling around, just one. I know it's kind of tricky, but anyway, we'll get to that bridge and cross it when we get there, and I'll talk to you about that. Oh yeah, yep, Tom, exactly. Ray Villafane. You guys, if you haven't seen them yet, you should check out Ray Villafane's pumpkin sculpts. They're phenomenal. He's on a whole different level when it comes to sculpting vegetation. And he sculpts pumpkins and gourds and all sorts of stuff. And he has a really cool sculpting kit, and I actually bought his video just to see how he does it. I want to get into it eventually. But man, they're so cool. I never could have imagined you can get away with sculpting a pumpkin that well. It's really nice. Anyway, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Tom. Okay, so I'm going to center the gizmo on the bottom of these, just so I can, when I rotate them up, it's rotating on the pivot point of the center of the eyelid itself. So then I can roll these up, and I will typically roll them towards the inside just a little bit, and then scale them up slightly. Burkholz. I don't think I've seen Burkholz. Sue, it's Villafaine's friend Sue Beatrice, I think. She's another she's a sculptor on a different level. She does sand sculpting, and she sculpts these little pocket watches out of metal, like a real pocket watch, and she'll just take all these little metal pieces and make a little sculpture inside the pocket watch, and it's just absurdly good. I can't wrap my head around how good they are. And she's also getting into pumpkin sculpting. And yeah, it's crazy. Awesome stuff. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just using the move brush just to kind of get these eyelids into place. And they're very minimalistic on him. They're hardly there. And he does have some pretty big eyelids on the bottom, if you can see. And I'm going to try and see if I can block those in. You can see the shape of them right here. They go that far down below his eyes. They're kind of eye bags and eyelids rolled into one. So I want to actually see if I can pull that off. So what I'll do again is I'll duplicate the eyes, and then I will clip them off, this time the other direction. So going up like this. Okay, and then unsolo that. And I'm going to pull them out in space to try and get them. I don't want to go too far out. I'll probably end up pushing the head into them instead. And then let's get this arc like this on the bottom of the eye. I'm just looking at this eye shape right now. The top of the eye is straighter. I need to make the eyelids straighter on the top. All right, Can, sounds good, man. Take care. Okay, so I'm gonna make this the upper eyelid straighter. He's a little more stoned looking, but what can you do? Okay, and then I don't really have enough detail as far as like getting it to look how I want it around that eye. I need to pull this out and then push this in to reveal more of that lower eyelid. See that? See, it's all about just using your block in to reveal or hide, or one thing is shaping another thing. So this head is actually giving me the shape of this lower eyelid, depending on how far I embed it into the head, right? So that's all part of it. Crystal, for sure, man. I love his stuff. I love going through it every Halloween too. It's like, oh man, look at that one. I love his crazy faces. I think my favorite one is there's a hand like grasping his face and like he's spitting seeds out. He's like, boo. That one's my favorite with his tongue out and everything. I just love how you can see how the fingers are being depressed into his cheek and it's deforming around each finger. It's really cool. Okay. That's feeling a little better. Now, since the eyelids are going to be made of the same material, i.e. skin of the head, I want to combine the eyelids with the head, but I don't want to combine the eyeballs with the head. Okay, so I want to move these eyeballs down in the stack, so down, down, so they're at the bottom. Then I'll grab the head. Then before I do this, I'm going to save it. Go block out 4. I'm going to save another iteration of it. Okay, and then I'm going to merge these down. Merge down. Okay. Merge down. Okay. So now they're all part of the same subtool, part of the same material, if you think about it that way. Okay. And I do want to have this nose combine right up into the head, so I'm going to push it so it intersects more up into there, like that. So it'll just give me a better sculpting start. And what I can try to is kind of pushing some nostrils in there to see if Zremesher will give me some rings around those nostrils. I don't know if it will or not, but you can try stuff like that. That's experimenting with Zremesher. So Zremesher will follow polygon or polygroups if you want it to, which is not always the best way of doing things. It will also follow peaks and valleys, which I find pretty reliable. And it will also follow the Zremesher guides, which is also sort of reliable. None of them are very reliable. They're all like, it just depends. I've talked about it before. It just depends on what you kind of want to use. But my favorite is probably peaks and valleys. So if I want it to try and follow something, I'll make a peak or a valley where I want the Zremesher to go around. So with this one, I'm actually going to make his mouth right now before I Zremesh it. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to Zremesh it right now to higher. I want a higher density so I can get in there and work with it a little more. See how dense the nose and the eyelids are? That's about the density that I want the head and the jaw to be. So again, what I can do is I can go in here and reset this. Let's see, it's going to put it way down here. Go into the gear and Zremesh, well, sorry, remesh by Zremesher. Okay, now I can zoom up here again. And this is set at 6,000. I'm going to try it just to see what it does. That's pretty good because it's still keeping the density of the nose and the eyelids, which that's what I'm looking for. But it's also giving me more density everywhere else. So that's much better. Then I can hit accept. Now what I can do is I have enough resolution in there that I can just start pulling in a mouth cavity. Okay, so it is 3:02. I don't want to keep these crazy long. I want to try and keep these to 2 hours per week. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to stop there because it's a good stopping point. And then we will make the mouth and merge everything, the head together and everything, and then start to just refine the head and the body to make it all ready to build the armor and stuff onto that. So this pretty much sums up the part 2 of blocking him out. Does the paint tool not work anymore? Like, what are you talking about, the paint tool? Are you talking about like poly paint? Poly paint should work. But before we go, I am going to raise his arms up. Are you talking about the pointing tool? The pointer tool doesn't work with YouTube. The pointer tool only works with Zoom, and I'm not using Zoom if that's the one you're talking about. So I'm going to raise these arms up a bit, just so we can clear that. Okay, let's see. Do you Zremesh with the dynamic on? That is it depends. If it's super low resolution and you don't get what you want, then you can turn dynamic off or apply it and then delete the lower subdivision levels. It just depends on how low your actual geometry is. If you're getting the Zremesher, if you're getting the new mesh to follow the old mesh, so it actually has these like polygonal shapes to it, then yeah, you'll want to actually apply some subdivision levels, even just one. You can just hit Control D, turn off dynamic, and then delete the lower subdivision level, and then do a Zremesh. But using that remesh by Zremesher, it's exactly the same as using the Zremesher inside of my my menu, like this menu right here. If you go to Zremesher, it's doing the exact same thing. It'll even use the same parameters that you set in here or over in the tool menu. It's exactly the same. The only difference is you have to pull that little red cone to get your X symmetry, and then you have to pull on that white cone to tell it the density level, which is nice because if you don't get the density level that you want just by guessing in a number down in the Zremesher, you can actually just pull on that cone again or push it in again to get it to redo what you've done. And it just saves a step of having to undo it and then redo it and then undo it and redo it until you're happy with the density. That's what's really good about Zremesh inside of that remesher utility. So that's kind of the only difference. But you can use whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't matter. Oh, less mesh on the blue and more on the red. Tom, I don't, you're talking about, yeah, painting the mesh density. I don't like to use that because I like to have my density the same overall, because that's what Remesh by Union likes. That's the best. That's the best. You're going to get the best result if your density is even across everything. If you have too much density in your hands and not enough in your arms, when you go to remesh those or unionize those together, you're going to get the weird stitches in there. So I avoid that. And what Tom's talking about is underneath the Zremesher over here. There is, you can paint red and blue to signify more or less density. But another thing I don't like about using that is it will actually double or triple or quadruple the density inside of those areas. So it's just too much. So that's, I kind of stay away from that. My friend Steve James, he likes to use that density paint. So I just like to, I stay away from it typically. So, but you can try it if you like. Yeah, it's all a matter of experimenting and finding the workflow that you like. Anyway, thanks for the questions, guys, and thanks for hanging out with me today. I really enjoy this, and I love that you are asking me questions, and I can get this information out to everyone that needs it, that is missing all that kind of stuff. So, and it also helps me, like, okay, what am I missing in the course that I can actually cover and stick into actual lessons that you can then go and refer back to. So yeah, this helps me out as much as it helps you guys out. So I'm, yep, Lorraine, you are my density. I mean, my destiny. Yep, we'll leave on that note. So anyway, you guys, thank you very much. Yeah, let me know in the comments here. I've already posted this inside the community, inside the student only stream section. Also, I want to ask you guys one more question. What do you think about combining, well, it's kind of hard, but I want to combine the Q&A session and this into kind of the same thing until I get this guy built, and then we'll go back to splitting it up into an extra Q&A session. That doesn't mean I'm going to overwrite like student feedback videos. I need to do a couple of those, but I'm trying to condense my time during the week. So I stream on Mondays, and then I do the student only stream where you guys can ask me questions on Wednesdays. And then instead of doing a Q&A on Friday, I just have you guys send me questions and I can answer them and stuff like that. So, or you can just ask me them live while I'm doing the student stream while we go. So unless they absolutely don't pertain to what I'm doing right at the moment, then just send me that question through email and I'll answer it that way. So if you guys are cool with that, then I'll probably stick with that. And then I'll probably change that very last, let's see, let's go in there and look at it really quick. Okay, so that way it takes less of your time too. If you go in the community, so if you go to my library and then community is right here. Okay, and then if you go down to here, the weekly student only live stream, we're streaming in there right now. Okay, it's right here. And then see this weekly Q&A right here? I'm thinking I'm gonna change that into past videos. So then I can upload all of my past videos. I know a lot of you guys have been asking for that, and I want to get that in here for you guys to access whenever you want, so you can watch those past videos. I also want to link to my Pixelogic streams because I cover a lot of information in there, and it's kind of hard to find all of those videos. It'd be nice to kind of segment them out in different posts and say, hey, this is the pirate girl and all the videos for the pirate girl. Here's all the videos for the dinosaur cowboy, you know, stuff like that. So I'm trying to organize it and getting it in there. So yep, this will be, so Monday is a 2-hour stream for Pixelogic. That's for the public, that's live. And then this is a 2-hour stream every Wednesday for you guys. And this is just for students only. So I can dig deeper. I can show you Disney Infinity characters. I can talk about anatomy. I can talk about other programs other than just ZBrush. So that's why I'm really excited about doing this student live stream, because then I can, you know, really flesh everything out and get in there, and you guys can ask me questions. And I'm not getting the same questions every single week like I do over on the Pixelogic stream, where it's like, is that a Cintiq? You know, those kind of questions. So anyway, guys, I will see you next Wednesday or next Monday if you catch me live on the Pixelogic stream. So have a great week. And I love, love, love the creature box designs that you guys are doing. I can't wait to show Greg and Dave. They're gonna blow their minds. So I'm super excited about that. And I have some prizes lined up that I haven't announced yet for the winners. So it's gonna be awesome. Anyway, see you guys next week. Take care. Have a good one. Cheers.